Hey, what's up, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel, Ask Jimmy Smith. Today, I'm really excited to be bringing on a friend of mine, an Amazon selling expert, coach, trainer, content creator. His name is Brian Olson, and we have been growing up, so to speak, in the same Amazon selling communities, and specifically the My Silent Team Facebook group, which is a free Facebook group for over 70,000 members at the time of this recording that you can join at bit.ly/MST group. That link is below and in the description. And today I'm bringing Brian on to talk about first his story and how he got started selling on Amazon, the successes, the failures, all of the stuff that goes into an Amazon seller's journey. But we also are going to be discussing the Keep a Data product finder, as well as how to start mapping out your path to 100 ASINs if you're a new seller or an intermediate seller that's looking to add 100 more SKUs to your inventory, and really the methods behind that, and his 3-step system for ensuring that he wants to add a particular product to his inventory, and which you can pick up on and implement yourself today. But before we get into that interview, I want to remind you that there's a contest on this video for a free copy of my book, Side Hustle to Full-Time Income. All you have to do is to drop a comment down below, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, because the winner from this video will be announced in the next video that comes out after this one. So you want to check into that video to see if you are the lucky winner. Now, if you're interested in finding out more information about Brian and his 2-day intensive on a path to 100 ASINs, you can go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. That's provenamazoncourse.com/100. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the interview with Brian Olson. Hey, Brian, thank you so much for joining me on the YouTube channel today. Excited to have you here.
Thanks, Jimmy. Pleasure. Always good to hang out with you for a little bit.
Yeah. We've known each other for a few years now at this point through the My Silent Team, Proven Amazon course communities and everything. So, but this is the first time we've done a recorded thing together, which is kind of, kind of fun. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I've been looking forward to it. I sure appreciate you making room to have me on.
It's my pleasure. So, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about with you today, especially for my YouTube audience being mainly newer Amazon sellers, I've got experienced sellers too on here, but I know that you have quite the cool story, in my opinion, for just starting an Amazon business, getting into coaching, getting into helping new sellers grow and start their businesses. And so I'm interested, before we get into specific questions that I have, a little bit about your Amazon background, when you started, what that trajectory has looked like, and kind of what you're doing today.
Good. Okay. Yeah. Happy to share about that. So I started in like the fall of 2018, kind of poking around, found the My Silent Team community, thought I found my one product that I was going to get rich on. It was I can't even remember the toy. It was some toy, and it was one of those deals where like it's a variety of all these different characters. And so the toy that you're going to buy, like the way the store stock it is, it's the variety. Well, there was just like one toy out of that variety that was really kicking butt. And so, but of course, every store I went to couldn't find it. And it was because everyone was already miles ahead of me. So anyway, fast forward about 6 months from there, and started the Amazon business myself. Robin, who wasn't with me at the time, was finishing up her graduate degree and had a nice job in the IT field, and was like, hey, good luck with that, and gave me full support. Like she was rooting me on and everything. And I jumped into coaching because I knew I wanted to shortcut this as much as I can, or as much as I could. And of course, then I thought, well, once I got in coaching, then I must need to do everything. And this, what you said when I saw you speak earlier this year, really resonated. It's like, oh, I need to do replans, and I need to do private label, and I need to do KDP, and I need to do wholesale. And so I was trying to do it all. And my coach was like, Brian, you just got to focus on something. But it took several, months for that to kind of come around. And anyway, it was inspirational when I heard also Oscar talk on a podcast. He's like, he started at the same time as me, had the same coach as me, and he's posting these phenomenal numbers. And I call up my coach and I'm like, hey, what are you teaching Oscar that you're not teaching me? And she's like, the same. I'm teaching you both the same things. The difference is he buckled down and focused on this one thing. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. And then things started clicking over the summer of 2019. I had my first proven conference was in Champaign that September. And my day job was going to keep me away from home for a number of weeks as well during that month. So I spent like 2 months prior, just like stuffing feeding the beast, putting as much in the pipeline as I could. And then while I was at the conference, a number of magical things happened, including getting to see you speak and talk about how many ASINs you had, which was a mind blower for me at the time, figuring out how to get my money, my cash flow sort of situated, because I started my business on a $3,000 credit card, which I don't suggest, by the way. And then figured out what a Repricer was, learned how to stack some coupons and stuff at Target. And then while I was at the conference, like my business changed literally overnight. I went from selling like, $100 a day sometimes to $600 a day. Wow. And then I got super excited, of course. And I'm calling Robin while I'm at it was like Friday night. And I was like, you're not going to believe what's happening. And so then she got really fired up. And by the time I got home, she was like, okay, tell me what I got to do so I don't have to go back to work. And I said, all we need is 8 ASINs a day. That's all we need. And she was like, now I knew what a tall task that was. She didn't know any different. So I was like, oh yeah, you can totally do this. It's easy. And that's just the kind of person that she is. You tell her that it can be done and she'll go do it.
Yeah.
And so in a very short amount of time, we had built up a nice list of 300 or so ASINs before the end of that year. And that just exploded us into 2020, which was a very strange year, as I'm sure everyone here can remember. That year we did about $700,000 in sales, and we were anything that you could send in pretty much was selling because of the whole COVID experience. So I would say we backed off a little bit of that in 2021, and we've been holding steady in the mid 6 figures since. Robin is running the day-to-day operations of the business. We're both now, after we kind of went through that whole experience, I remember following up with my coach in like late 2020, and just opened the book on our business, and she was like, wow, this is really good. And then in early 21, she reached out, another person reached out and said, would you like to join the coaching team? And so at first I just started doing that solo, as Robin was still managing the business on the back end. And eventually I was able to convince Robin to come and do the coaching too, because what she did when she joined our business, it exploded. I knew the same thing would happen with coaching. When you put 2 minds on the same task, then you see a lot of things sort of accelerate. And that's what happened with us. And I know I'm rambling, so just jump in.
No, you're good. This is great.
So we just kept talking. We would finish the day and we would sit down over dinner and say, okay, well, who did you have for a coaching client today? And talk about that coaching session. And I would do the same, or multiple sessions as it happens. And then we started finding like a lot of commonalities that we were running up against with a lot of our clients. And so we just started talking through it and coming up with, okay, here's the way that I suggested, here's the way that you suggested, let's take the best of both, and then come up with this, solution that works for us. Like we use it in our business, and then we turn around and leverage that same experience with our coaching clients. So that kind of led into the Coach's Corner podcast that we do on Jim's channel occasionally, and just super stoked about the way things are headed right now. And the number of coaching clients that we're able to help has been very heartwarming for both of us.
Yeah, it's amazing. And whenever you can take the knowledge that you've learned and put time and effort into, and then turn it into helping somebody else do the same thing, or even far exceed what you've done, which happens all the time. It's a really cool feeling to see that. And I know that you mentioned a few different resources and things like that. So I'm going to just quickly, for anybody that may not know, if they're falling or stumbling into this channel for the first time. So both Brian and I started in the My Silent Team Facebook group, which is a completely free community to join. The link link is in the description. The link is bit.ly/MST group. The other thing that we both joined early on was the Proven Amazon course. And actually now my course on replens that my book was based off of, and Brian's courses that he's done as well for utilizing Keepa in multiple different ways to find and source products. Both of our courses, actually both have multiple courses within the Proven Amazon course are there. So if anybody's looking for a pretty low barrier to entry course, it's currently, as of the time of this recording, $39 a month. That's the Proven Amazon course, which you can get at bit.ly/PAC course, PAC course. And again, the links are below in the description. The other resource that I want to point out is he mentioned Jim's podcast. That would be the Silent Sales Machine Radio, which is one of the best business podcasts out there in multiple countries. And he hosts, is it weekly now, Brian, that you and Robin do weekly?
Most weeks. Yeah. I think we got a little off track over the summer, but yeah, most of the time.
Gotcha. I think I've hosted maybe 2 or 3 episodes on the podcast before. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of people love the Coaches Corner that you were doing, which is highlighting, is it only coaches or is it also coaching students that you're highlighting on the podcast?
So what we highlight on the podcast is what I was talking about when we're sort of thinking about the sessions that we had that day, the common questions. And so Robin and I will jump on and tackle some of those common questions that we are working with on our with our coaching clients. And then we're trying to do, like, once a month, we're doing a coach's spotlight. So someone from the Jim Cockrum coaching program, another coach will come on and we sort of interview them about, how they got started in the business and what their specializations are and how they work with their coaching clients.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know that there's probably 3 on average episodes that come out each week in the Silent Sales Machine podcast. I love it. I only get a chance to listen to a few of them here or there because I get pretty busy. But it's one of the best podcasts out there. I love being able to check in on successful students and the questions and stuff that get answered. So if anybody doesn't know of the podcast, go check it out, Silent Sales Machine Radio. So one of the things, Brian, that you and Robin have become known for within the community is utilizing Keepa, and specifically the Keepa Data Product Finder for finding ASINs. And I've done some videos on this channel on that. But I know that you've got something right now talking about the path to 100 ASINs that you are currently doing. And I'm curious how that concept came about, because I'm assuming that a lot of it deals with the Keepa Data Product Finder as well.
To some extent it does. Yeah. Okay. The Keepa courses that we've put out there are an approach to, they're one way to gather a bunch of ASINs that meet a certain set of criteria that you can then evaluate to determine whether they're test-worthy ASINs or not. And, I think we didn't want to specialize in any particular method of gathering those ASINs or software or anything like that. So we just say we're ASIN gathering tool agnostic. So it could be Keepa, it could be TA, it could be TE, it could be bot scraper, it could be any number of ways that you want to gather a big batch of ASINs, right? Okay. What we love about Keepa is it allows us to put some filters. Basically, the Keepa product finder has I don't know, I was going to say 1 million, but it's not really 1 million. It seems like 1 million knobs, dials, switches, filters that you can set in there to really sort of fine tune the type of ASIN that you're looking for. Because, not all ASINs are created equally. And you can find one that looks really awesome and you check the sales rank on it. I think you, Jimmy, were around and doing some replens or some Amazon selling when really all you had to look at was the BSR. And so you might just look at the BSR and say, oh, it's 75,000 in grocery. This should be okay. Right. And what you don't realize is that 3 days from now, that thing could be 175,000 because it just sold one time in a month. And so what we love about Keepa is it lets you put some, filters in place that you can pull those more consistent ASINs out and then do some evaluation on them. So it's a very clinical approach, right? Like we hear in the community a lot, like, don't care about the product, right? Don't care how great the pictures are. don't care about the description. The bottom line is, does it sell and is it profitable?
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't care where you get your ASINs. Let's just do that. Does it sell and is it profitable analysis on it, and then make the determination of, can we get it? And there are some nuances, like, is the brand correct, and is it confusing because the title doesn't match the bullets, or people are complaining about what they're getting? Some deeper analysis that you can do on that. But at a high level, we're just what we found, Robin and I, when we both after we were coaching for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
is that the results were the same. About 4 to 6 coaching sessions in, we would find that people started to catch fire. And that catching fire is that they're knocking down those test-worthy ASINs like it's like with 2 hands tied behind their back, right? And we hear this in the community all the time, like, I've looked for hours and I can't find anything, and then all of a sudden it clicks, and once it clicks, then you're ready to go. Mm-hmm. Well, those 4 to 6 coaching sessions that we're covering with our clients can take 2 months, 2.5 months, sometimes 3 months, depending on how the schedule goes, right? Mm-hmm. Because we usually don't meet more than once a week. And when we leave that coaching client, they've got a homework assignment. Mm-hmm. And that homework assignment is, depends on wherever they're at in the business. In the early days, you got to look through these ASINs and see if you can find a source and a cost that would make them profitable. And so what we're working on now is this proven path to 100 ASINs, which takes those 4 to 6 coaching sessions, condenses them into 2 days. And with a group, we're able to complete the same amount of work in 2 days. So we love it because it really gives you a lot of practical, in-depth experience in the practice of identifying a source that's reliable, and then understanding, is that source going to give me, is the cost then for that source going to give me enough room in this ASIN to be profitable? Number one, actually, that's number 2. Number 1 is, does it sell fast enough? Number 2 is, am I not going to lose my money? Like, we're looking for evidence that buy box doesn't go below our break-even price for an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. And then is there enough upside on it that, it's profitable for me? And so we kind of put those 3 things together. We go through a list of, 400 or 500 ASINs. And then we start layering additional knowledge on top of that by the time you get out of there, not only do you probably have a nice chunk of test-worthy ASINs, but now you can go and source ASINs anytime you want. Mm-hmm. And to me, Jimmy, I always say that the most important part of my business is new tests. And without new tests, your business will just slowly die off. And it's the most important part of your business. And therefore, I don't trust it to anyone else for a long time. Like, I like to keep that really close to me in my realm, so that I'm quality checking and quality assuring everything. I'm not just blindly accepting what somebody else may have found that they thought was good.
Right. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask too, with all of the coaching experience, and particularly with this path to 100 ASINs, what are some considerations that people should be looking for, especially if they're newer, maybe they're struggling, maybe they've been doing this for a month or even 2 months, and they're finding one a week, and that's all that they can find. What mm-hmm. are some things that they should be looking for, or characteristics in particular ASINs that sell well?
Yeah. Some of those characteristics for me include, like, what's the sales velocity of that item? I remember, and the early Keepa course that's out in the Proven Amazon course, mm-hmm. I think it's called Advanced Sourcing Using Keepa. Still a phenomenal, it's not, just to be clear, I think it may have gotten renamed. There's Keepa 1.0 and Keepa 2.0. Yeah. Keepa 2.0 does not really cover 1.0 to the level of detail that the original course does. Mm-hmm. So, but when I made that original course, I was content at that time. Like, if there were 5 Keepa drops a month, then I was willing to test that ASIN. And what I found is that it may have tested okay, and I would send items in on it. And then if it got discovered and there became a lot of competition on it, regardless of how low I took my price, I couldn't get out of it fast enough. So then I might have been stuck in some ASINs that I didn't want to be in. So sales velocity is number one. I want to make sure that if that happens in the situation where I'm on this listing and then all of a sudden a bunch of people show up because it got made a list or something like that, then if I lower my price, there's enough sales velocity that I can go ahead and get out whenever I'm ready to. The second thing is going to be, is there evidence that I'm not going to lose my money? So what's the lowest thing this item has been selling for? And if the range of the buy box, and this is kind of a new concept that I really have to thank you for, but if the range of that buy box has stayed above my break even for, the majority of the time, then I feel pretty good that, obviously anything can happen. You never know what can happen. We were on a great replen for like 14 months before all of a sudden it made a list and it never has recovered. But for the most part, there's good evidence. All we can do really is look for good evidence that, we're going to be able to get our money back. And then the third thing is is there enough potential profit in there? So if it stays above my break-even price, and the range of that buy box movement over the last 90 days or so has been, consistently meeting my minimum. And that could be for your minimum. If you're maybe struggling, figure out what that minimum is for you. Like, I know everyone would love to have a list of 100 ASINs that are 100% ROI. And, you can get there eventually. But until you get there, you need to acknowledge the small wins. And those small wins could be 40%, 30%, 20% ROI. And just to start realizing that you are seeing it, because once you understand oh, I am seeing this, I am seeing these ASINs that can make a minimum of 20% ROI or 30% or 40%, then you start getting momentum. That's the most important part of this is getting the momentum. So we really break it down into something that's super fundamental. Really, Robin and I call ourselves the ones and zeros people. As fundamental as we can make it is what we try and do.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the 3 steps that you've got there. One of the things too that for many new sellers, they might be curious about that whole break even, I would say philosophy, so to speak. And I like to point this out because I feel a lot of new sellers get in and maybe they do find something that's at 40% ROI and then it drops to 10% return on investment and they're sad about it. But in reality, a 10% ROI is very good if you look at other investments and things out there. And if you can look at a year of a Keepa chart and see that in the last year, I would have never lost money. I would have at worst broken even. That means I'm paying $10 for something and getting 10 back. That's not bad. Too bad for a risk. Obviously, it can lose money, but it's still something that is a good place to try to invest your money into, with some risk. The other thing too, let's say you lost money, and this is again for new sellers. If you lost money 10%, 20%, I feel that a lot of people really get down on themselves. And I don't know if you notice this early on with sellers, Brian, as well, but they really get down if they see one ASIN or 2 ASINs that lose money. When in reality, if they spent $10 and they got $8 back, they learned a lot and it really wasn't a huge loss in the grand scheme of things. So do you see that kind of mental fluctuation happen as people get more experienced? They get kind of used to that. They get better with testing ASINs. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. I think the challenge there is keeping your eye on the goal, right? The end goal. And the sooner that you can build a book of business that you have this 100, 200, 300 ASIN mob that you're working with, then you start caring much less about this one ASIN that maybe you lost $2 on. Right. And that's where we need to be. The reality is we're not going to win 100% of the time, but we can get really good at this. We can get to 90, 95%. And, there are things that are just out of our control. Everything could look great. And then like I said, we sold on ASIN for 14 months and then bang, something happens. Out of my control. But what I can do in that situation is make sure that I'm set up for being able to get out quickly. So what we like to do is point out the benefits of doing the test and selling on those ASINs that maybe you just broke even, maybe you lost a little bit, but maybe that was 1 out of 10 ASINs. And some of the benefits that you get from doing this is that you get to go through that cycle of sourcing, shopping, prepping, shipping, selling, getting your money back, right? that 7-step process that I just said right there, sometimes that can take 8 weeks.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of sellers sometimes get discouraged before they get to that end of 8 weeks. They're like, oh, where's, the reserve, the all these expenses that they didn't necessarily understand. And so, there's a benefit of just going through the cycle. There's the benefit of also doing regular activity, sales activity on the Amazon platform. We hear all the time, like the struggles of, oh, if I could just sell this, I'd be a millionaire. And I know how that goes. I felt the same way. I remember thinking, if I could just sell topicals, I could be way better at this business. And I pulled out all the stops to sell topicals. And today, topicals is, a small part of my business because we're pretty diversified, but that will happen for you over time if you are showing consistent activity with Amazon. So when you're selling and you're not getting complaints, even if you didn't make money, Amazon doesn't know. They don't know what you paid for that item, right? For all they know, you could have gotten it at cost from the manufacturer, or you could have gotten it on clearance or something like that. So by showing that regular activity, then you start building your trust score with Amazon. And then what happens? Categories get ungated, brands get ungated, and then you start having a little more freedom on the platform.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think one of my favorite changes actually that Amazon has made is making the account health rating based off of order volume, because I think that it really tells sellers, hey, Amazon cares about the amount of orders going through your account, whether you're breaking even or not, it doesn't matter. But if you sell a high volume of orders, then that will help your account health rating. And I think that gave me a lot of insight into what Amazon truly cares about is volume of orders. And because they make a lot of money whenever you sell a lot of orders, even if you break even. But for new sellers, that experience is important. And also you said we can get to the point where we're making money 95% of the time. I did a video on this channel about what if you won 50% of the time? You were right 50% of the time at 50% ROI, but then 25% of the time you made 10% and 25% of the time you lost money. You come out ahead every time in that scenario. So there's, and I gave percentages of how much the losses were. You can't have 100% loss on everything, right? It would be a 10% loss or 15% loss, but it's pretty crazy when you do the numbers of what, like, to me is worst case scenario once you get good at Amazon versus what most average at. And there's a huge opportunity out there to grow and scale if people commit the time. And I'll just add one other thing, Brian, that you mentioned too in this, that it takes about 8 weeks to have that whole 7-step process to get done. And you mentioned earlier that there's about 4 to 6 weeks for a lot of people, maybe 2 months for people to get used to selling on Amazon and finding deals and all of this. So if you were to really add those together, it can be about 4 months until from when you start to when you feel pretty confident and you're getting the money back, right? And I think that's important for people to know, because a lot of people get into this hoping to make a bunch of money right away because they think it's a get rich quick thing. And while you can make a lot of money quickly, 4 months is still, a kind of a long walk, so to speak, to get there whenever you're starting and you're new. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I think that for new sellers, if they're getting into this, I suggest that they give 6 months to a year of dedicated focus to just give themselves the opportunity to learn. I don't know if you would agree with that or have other suggestions for them, but that's just my typical recommendation.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. The deal here is that we're not, nobody, I don't think, is trying to come into this business and get rich in 3 months. If you're going to do this, like, you have a goal, and that goal is, whatever it is, I want to cover my car payment. I want to loosen up my household budget. I want to, quit my job. I want to be a 7-figure seller. All of those things are absolutely attainable. You just can't forget about, that end goal. And whatever it is that's powering you through that, those long nights, those early mornings, those weekends when you are tired of poly bags and the stupid poly bag strips, you have to remember what it is that's powering you through that, whether it's like more time with the family, getting out of the job, the newer car that you want to drive, whatever it is. It's like, remember why you're going to the gym every morning. You're not going to the gym because you love being sore the next day, right? You're going to the gym because it's going to extend your life and you want to feel good about yourself and feel healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Well, one thing that I want to mention too, because I know we're kind of getting close on some of the time that we had for this,
Mhm.
but the path to 100 ASINs. I mentioned in my course, the Replens course, which is part of the Proven Amazon course, as we've been talking about, that 67 ASINs is around the point, based on different averages, where you can be at $10,000 per month in
Mhm.
sales. Now, that
Mhm.
can fluctuate up or down depending on, average selling price, how often it sells, et cetera. So 100 ASINs, if somebody's brand new and they're looking at how do I get to 100 ASINs, what is it about this path to 100 ASINs that you have that would make the perfect candidate to be a part of this program?
Great question. We talk a lot about before click, or BC.
Okay.
I hear it talked about anyway in the Facebook group. There's the BC and the AC, after click. And so we're just trying to bridge that gap and get from BC to AC as fast as we can. And that's what we're going to do in 2 days. Once you're AC, then the world is your oyster. But if you are in that place where you've looked around, and I was this person, for hours and hours and hours, days and weeks, and you can't find anything, this is for you. If you maybe have a business, maybe you're doing private label and you're looking to add some stability or additional stream of income, and you're just not familiar with how to find replan ASINs, we get those clients all the time. Another good candidate for this, because if you're that person, 8 weeks of waiting for results is probably not something that you're all that interested in. Or if you've been plugging along doing $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month and you're ready to take it to the next level, then this is for you too. Because like I said, once you've got that tool in your toolbox, you can go find ASINs anytime. And the brilliant part about this, Jimmy, is that I said this at this year at the Proven Conference. It's so simple, a caveman could do it. Seriously, like once you get it down, you can train your 12, 14-year-old kid to go do this too. And then all you have to do is quality check your stuff instead of, putting in the hours of finding the source and the cost. So I think it's for anyone, but if you've already got a nice, 6-figure replens business going, great. It's probably not for you. But if you're looking to get over the hump, or connect the dots, then this is for you.
Awesome. Yeah. And the link for that, which I mentioned at the top of this episode, is at provenamazoncourse.com/100. And that will bring you to the path for 100 ASINs. You can go there, you can sign up. And I believe, Brian, somebody, calls you after that point. So you fill out the questionnaire and somebody will call you to make sure that it is the right fit, just in case, to make one last double check. Is there anything else that people should know about how that process works?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think there's a form over there to fill out, and then you get a call back from the coaching office, and they'll answer any questions you got and fill you in on all the details.
Awesome. And this will be taking place in person. And where is it going to be at?
So this is going to be taking place in Salt Lake City, September 15th and 16th. I've only been to Salt Lake one time. It was earlier this year. And I couldn't believe how amazingly beautiful it was. Yeah. And, I live in Colorado. I've got, the Front Range right outside my window, and I see a lot of great views every day, but it's 360-degree views in Salt Lake. It was a mind blower for me.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. I've been to Salt Lake one time before. It was also for an Amazon thing. So that's pretty cool. So for anybody that is interested, again, provenamazoncourse.com/100 will get you to the website. And if you're watching this after September 15th or 16th, or you're watching this after because it is limited to a certain amount of registrants, if you're watching this after that point, still go to the website. You can check it out. I'm assuming that there will be a waiting list if there are more things like this happening in the future with Brian and Robin and the team. So make sure to check that out, even if it's after the September time period in 2020.
And real quick, Jimmy, the team this first time is going to be awesome. So Robin and I are going to be there. Larry and Sue Pruitt are going to be there. Awesome. You're going to have Matt and Nathan from the coaching office, and Jim Cochran's also going to be there. I think on his way back from an Amazon event himself. Oh, wow. So it's going to be a great turnout in terms of leadership at this first one.
That's amazing. I love that. One last question for you, Brian, because I know that I may get this in the comments. Hey, Brian, if people are going to be going to this thing and it's getting out there how they find 100 ASINs in 2 days, they're learning all of this, how do I know that these concepts won't become saturated, or that this won't become something that I can't do anymore? And we hear this question a lot, but I'm just curious, and someone will probably ask me in the comments.
I think saturation is the number one excuse that people will, I'll say, use. Oh, it's saturated. And, you could use that excuse in anything. You could use that excuse in laundromats and car washes and fast food restaurants, but that doesn't stop new success stories in those niches all the time. And the same is true here. The reality of the situation, we know, Jimmy, is that for every 100 people that start an Amazon business, like 95 of them are going to be gone. Maybe 90, I don't know. A large percentage of them are going to be gone after the first year. Mm-hmm. And so, if you have stick-to-itiveness, if you've got a strategy, and if you've got a process for identifying this, and you set the system up to work in your favor, in other words, you're mitigating your risks and giving yourself every opportunity for profit, then you'll last. So in that case, there's no oversaturation to be worried about.
Absolutely. That's perfect. It's always interesting to see that. I've heard it since 2015 when I started, that Amazon is dead, eBay's dead, all of this stuff. And it just isn't true. It changes, it evolves. But there are always stores that you can source. There's always new products to get. There's even old products that become better again. And so I love that you're doing this. This is going to help a lot of people. And so, as I mentioned, go check out the link at provenamazoncourse.com/100. And hopefully you'll be able to see Brian and Robin and the rest of the team in Salt Lake City in September. So Brian, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it, and excited to hear how the event goes. And I'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Jimmy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for checking out that interview with Brian Olson on a path to 100 ASINs. I hope that his story resonated with you, as there's a lot of similarities in his as there is in mine in terms of failures and successes and how we learn and grow and persist in an Amazon business. So as mentioned throughout the video, if you're interested in checking out Brian's path to 100 ASINs, you can go to the provenamazoncourse.com/100. That's provenamazoncourse.com/100. The link is below and in the description if you're interested. But also don't forget that we are running a contest on this video for a free copy of my book, Side Hustle to Full-Time Income, which also comes with a free audiobook and mini course. All you have to do is drop a comment down below and tune into the next video to see if you are the lucky winner. I hope this video helped you and blessed you. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.